Good
Guys,
afternoon.
welcome.
Good morning.
Hey guys.
Good morning. I think we've got several time zones on this at the moment. Joe, you are based where?
I'm in Malta.
John in Canada, Victoria, in
Ukraine.
and in sunny, warm South Africa.
Jealous.
Amazing. You can always come and visit. But yeah, we're going to give it just a few seconds to let some people join. If people have already started joining, feel free to share this on your LinkedIn and get your friends and followers to come and see what today is all about. It's a really exciting conversation. But to kick things off, just a big welcome back to another episode of Profiled Player Behavior in a Changing World. So today we're looking at a topic that sits at like the center of operator growth, but is often misunderstood, and that's affiliate partnerships. So operators are constantly competing with each other for high quality traffic, yet many are struggling to attract and retain their best affiliate partners.
And this is a very exciting topic overall, especially for me. And so we invited the experts to unpack this topic together. Here we have John and Joy from StatsDrone, who work closely with affiliates and operators through their analytics platform. And today we have quite an interesting pack of different topics that you probably have seen already in the description of the whole event. So we're going to explore different myths, strategies, how to work with, what to look after, and overall, like how this operator and affiliate relationships gonna develop with time. So, however, before, as you all know, we have this little ritual at the beginning of every episode, and we're typically asking the blitz questions to our guests. So today, I think we will go one by one, gonna just switch the questions to one of you. And let's start with John. So, John, describe the affiliate ecosystem today in 3 words.
Oh, I'm going to say it like I think it is on the operator side. Lack of data.
Okay.
Lack of data in an understanding from an understanding point of view. The data is there, but people just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that as well. Nice. And you fit into 3 words, which is also fantastic. Okay. So yeah, we can definitely uncover that a bit more later. So Joy, for you, question. What is the biggest misconception operators still have about affiliates?
The biggest misconception, probably that everything still works the same way that it did 5 to 10 years ago. It's changing a lot, and I think there's a lot of change, and not everybody's keeping up with those changes.
Yeah, true. The world is changing so much overall. Okay, that's interesting. We will definitely deep dive here as well. And one more question for you, Joy. So what is one metric affiliates care about the operators? Oh no, sorry. So what is one metric that affiliates care about, but the operators actually often overlook?
I think it depends on the affiliate what they're looking for, but in terms of what they really want is probably accessibility to a variety of those metrics and having them almost on demand or accessible.
Okay, so just to track overall performance, just to kind of at least see what you can get. Understood. Okay, thanks. And the last question to John. So, given that the StatsDrone, I actually remember your pitch at the last Next in Malta. I remember Gali and I were actually watching together your pitch. Okay. So it's so that question is related a little bit to here. Like, what's something that you believed strongly when you started the company, but actually with time you understood that was completely wrong and you changed your mind around?
Yeah. Before we get into that, I noticed that you weren't on our investment cap table, so I guess we didn't do a very good pitch.
We were the ones screaming the loudest in the crowd from wherever you were in the room. You heard us.
Yeah, so that was amazing. Thank you. It's a couple things. First of all, I didn't realize how deep things could go when we started StatsDrone. I knew I wanted to solve a problem, and then as we went deeper, I was like, wait a minute, this I don't know where it ends. I mean, just to give you a small example, the second we got Joe on board, like we didn't have dynamic variables and postbacks yet. And I'm kind of like, now I feel like I'm the expert only because I've had a guy like Joe on my team to kind of like say, here's the differences. And to this day, we are still getting questions about what's the difference between those two. They're two different products, but I didn't think we'd go deep down the rabbit hole, and I thought we would have made a lot more changes sooner than later. And I actually thought, like, I honestly believed, like, we have an amazing product and it's just going to sell itself. And trying to get people to take on this product is actually really difficult. I mean, it's a common thing we have in B2B in iGaming. There's a lot of amazing data tools, but I think people are kind of the buyer journeys are slow. I think we need more people recommending stuff. But I think when you look at similar companies that have data, they're kind of like they want to get better, but I think the education is actually lacking. And the further we go on, we're like, wait a minute, like most of us have got into this space without we didn't use our education, we used our experience. And we're just really lacking that experience. I think we could take this to another level.
I think you see that throughout the industry. I mean, when you're so far ahead of the curve, you know things before the majority of people realize what you're talking about is legitimate. I mean, I've seen it in the VIP space. I'm pretty confident Victoria's seen it on the personalization AI ML space for sure. So, you see it at every touch point. There's always these innovative pioneers that are coming into the industry. They see something that the majority have missed. We start drilling down into that, unpacking it, and then repackaging it into a way that it's easy for others to either utilize to their advantage. But because you're so far ahead, you look like the enigma in the scenario. Whereas you actually have a very real solution to a very real problem.
Yeah, and I still consider what I do. I'm like, I feel like I am ahead, but I feel like there's so much to learn. I'm always like, that's what I like about doing podcasting is I get to ask questions and ask like just this whole thing here. I get to learn from everyone here. It's really cool.
Cool.
I think that's a very good segue to open up the conversation for today. And in typical profiled fashion, we've broken today's conversation up into 4 categories of discussion. So I'm going to throw the first question that I wanted to ask you guys, which is around the whole concept of myths and misconceptions. And you guys have seen a lot in this industry. You've dealt with various people across the industry, companies. From what you guys have seen and experienced and how you've tried to support the industry, what are the biggest myths from operators that you're seeing that they still have about affiliates?
Joe can go first.
Sure.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, I did mention that they think that the industry is still the same as it was 5 to 10 years ago. To kind of expand on that, it's with a real world example, you see a lot of people at these shows, these conferences, they walk around and it's the classic same 2 questions before they've even said hello and what's your name. It's do you have traffic and which geos? And it's a misconception, and it also falls under a bit of the education part. So just offering higher revenue share or more appealing deals is not necessarily the best way to build relationships and to start building relationships with affiliates, and also not knowing what the both sides of the party are looking for. So it's easy to say we're going to offer you 70% revenue share, but you should also be prepared for questions back in terms of 70% of what, NGR, GGR, what are your calculations? What is the actual effective revenue share at the end of this? And for me, anywhere over 45-50% immediately starts ringing some alarm bells. Why would you give such a huge chunk away? where they're not able to then commit to what their calculations are, what their admin fees are, what does that look like at the end of the partnership. And I think that's a really negative way to start building a partnership or a relationship between two parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just thinking that, this is probably the hardest part overall in any partnership. Like, how do we build the relationships? Like, how to establish the trust, between the partners. And that kind of moves me directly into, pretty much like the essence of today's conversation is like how to build the trust and that partnership. And I'm thinking, like, imagine that I'm an operator, and I do want to start that relationship. Like, what would be the right way to go on, and how overall affiliate is looking at this new operator who is coming to him, how they evaluate like whether to work or not. Like, if you could give a bit of hints and the logic behind what is important, I think that would be super practical and valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, those conversations, as much as they start at the conferences, you're not closing that deal at the conference and you're not starting the partnerships then and there. What's really important is to understand from both sides, not just do you have traffic in which geos, but what is your product, what's your positioning, what benefit can we give to each other? Because, is it a quantity or a quality game? Do you want to have better relationships with fewer partners? Do you want to, for want of a better word, spray and pray and make it a numbers game and just see what you can catch and how it goes? So for me, I think originally having a conversation where it's a bit more faceted than just do you have traffic is obviously the best starting point to actually understand what each position is and how that can be mutually beneficial. That's the best starting point, and then to develop that over time.
And I'm also thinking, that there are like hundreds casinos opening every month, right? And everybody needs traffic. So like, how do you differentiate yourself from like all others, and pretty much, I mean, affiliates probably are the most demanded people right now. They already have good operators that they're working for a long time. And then there is like this new who are coming in, like, do they actually even look at them or not? Like,
it should be. Whether or not it's a reality, I wouldn't say it's a common practice, at least. But yeah, it's pretty much a numbers game at the moment. I think the people that are taking a bit longer to have a look into these things, they do tend to be doing better over the long term.
Yeah. And just to kind of add to that, because there's like the industry myths, and Victoria brought up a good point of relationships and how does this whole thing fit into a giant circle? Well, the myths, I think it's like our industry's had so much money that there's been a lack of drive for innovation. You go outside of gaming, you see real innovation. You see people working with data. You come inside, when those people come over, they're like, what is going on here? Like, I thought this was the future, and we're in the Stone Ages. So you have that. The relationships are just as important, because what I personally believe are, even on the affiliate program side, if you care about a relationship, you're going to have that same care for your players. And what we see is, like Joe said, there's that spray and pray mentality. So it's kind of like they approach affiliates like that, like your numbers. It's like, what geos? And it's like, look, the programs we actually prefer to work with are the ones that actually have the care. And what I find is that kind of reflects somehow into the player and the player product, which kind of goes full circle back into the player value. So if you look at like the best operators, like they do everything right. Like if they're caring about you as the affiliate, then they're caring about the product and the player, which is a reflection of player value. And what I think is going to be true in the next couple of years, hopefully less, is that while these white labels are popping up, if affiliates ever get their hands on player value data across the entire segment, we're going to see two things happen. Affiliates are going to change who they work with, because they're going to actually have access to the data. They're like, look, I can't onboard you unless you overpay this insane flat fee, and you probably don't have that. And even if you did have that, the operator needs to actually be on the opposite side of the fence saying, I need to up my game. Like, why are our player values low? And the second they know that, they're going to be like, you know what, this white label has 6 months to live because we're going to burn through the cash. Everyone needs to know this, because we don't need another white label that is also like churning players. Like this is affecting players at the end of the funnel. And while affiliates are kind of just like sending traffic randomly to operators, hoping that, you know, we're actually going to get our commission. Like we need this on both sides of the fence.
But I mean, do you think that that comes about from, and I mean, we've seen it in I don't know how many cases with the whole lifetime commission and lifetime this, which these deals are getting cut left, right, and center. We are seeing operators getting burnt as a result of that, and then to attract new affiliates are going 50%, 60%, 70%, which we know from a commercial aspect makes no sense and it's not sustainable. You know, in that case, would this be, I would say, superficial relationships that are being formed or temporary stopgaps before we see like a massive drop? Obviously, getting access to your own player data, your traffic, owning your traffic beyond handover, that's going to change the game completely. But I think the draw card of lifetime commission is near its expiration. Or am I just seeing it a little more pessimistically?
It's pretty close. I mean, what I personally believe to be true is affiliates should be prioritizing what is the best player value from a revenue. Now, that's not the actual true player value, because if we just assume that some operators are shaving, this I think is actually quite a strong possibility. There could be some operators that they're so good with their product that they might even be shaving and still making you a higher ROI or a higher earnings per click than an operator who's not even shaving you at all. Like this is the major discrepancy of what a player value is. I think what affiliates, they kind of want, like they want everything. And I don't blame them for it. They want those 45% rev share deals. So if you ask them today, it's like, hey, would you accept 35%, but we're not shaving? It's kind of like, you shouldn't be shaving in the first place. They're going to ask for what's unrealistic. And we've created our own cycle that's kind of, we're in a bad position right now. Like I honestly believe that some operators feel like in order for me to even get your traffic, because you're basically forcing this on me as an affiliate, I'm working with some affiliate managers and they're like, I need to pay flat fees and I need to say yes to unrealistic deals that they're not even, like most affiliate managers can't even calculate the ROI. So they're just saying yes to it. And I think what's happening is every time we analyze affiliate data, like especially with Joe's help, we're seeing shaving happen, not across the board 100%. It's not near that, but all it takes is a couple whales to take your 45%. I mean, we could do a calculation on the spot. Like, how do you get 45% to effective 25%? Depends on how much money that whale's spending, right? So in your situation, if you brought that 100K per month player, your 45 is really 25. And how would you ever know? You wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Very
a broad topic, you know, shaving. I mean, if you look at, you know, a lot of the terms and conditions in affiliate programs, and, you know, not understanding what that relationship entails is probably the worst things you can do going into it, because the expectations are not aligned. Now, is lifetime revenue share lifetime? Is it capped at 5 years? You know, this changes program to program. You've got things like you've introduced, as an affiliate, you've introduced a high roller, and then all of a sudden they tell you, you know, we've got a new high roller policy, and that policy dictates that they go onto a negative carryover track because it's high risk. And these things, you know, they're not standardized across the board, and it does depend on the relationship. So it's a really, really broad thing. And, you know, like John said, would you rather have a 20% rev share that was a true rev share, as opposed to 45% where, you know, we do the deductions and we take CRM and bonus and loyalty and platform fees, and then we do them on GGR and again on NGR before we pay you, so we've double dipped, and then you end up with 12% at the end of it. Yeah, you would always take 20% over 12%. So being more transparent is always better. But there isn't really a uniform way of having these deals, and not many people are being educated on creating those deals in the first place.
And a lot of operators aren't even giving you that secret sauce calculation. Like your 45%, we've seen it where your effective value is like under 20.
Do you think of operators, just to pivot slightly, do you think of operators showcase, well, we're giving you this cost or this commission on whatever NGR, and then our definition of NGR is this minus that, minus this, minus that, factoring this in as well, which could be a variable cost from the third party and whatever it could be, you know, variable costs, and that you're actually looking at a net cash model more than an NGR model. do you think if they actually gave that formula to the affiliate, they would attract more affiliates, or would it act as more of a deterrence?
So this is something that when I was an affiliate tried to implement with our insertion orders to varying success. So we would actually try to define what that calculation was, what the revenue share model was calculated on. But that was varied from partner to partner, from deal to deal, and it was maybe only in 5 to 7% of the cases where that calculation was, one, readily available, or two, something that they were willing to share. So it's not just would it be more attractive. I just think that not many affiliate managers have that as part of either their training or their responsibilities, right? So where does that calculation come from? Is that from the business, or is that something that should be standardized? Is that a brand specific thing? Is it a program specific thing? There's just so many variables that it's something we should be asking, but it's not always the case that it can just easily be added.
Very interesting.
And there is another angle that I'm thinking about right now. So let's say, if I'm an operator and I'm given this data around the acquired traffic that I bought from you, so that you can also see that, like, in a sense, what probably an affiliate would do and the operator would do, it's like to maximize their own profitability, right? So if the operator is given out this information, the affiliate can then, create tension in terms of making higher fees, whatever. And in the sense from the operator side, then it doesn't look like it makes sense to do it unless maybe certain conditions should be met. So, and I'm just thinking, this is a very difficult, really, deal based a lot on trust and on integrity of both sides, that, you will actually be willing to stay with these terms that you actually agreed upon. Because in a sense, maximization of affiliate profitability always becomes, decreases the profitability of the operator. And how to keep that balance, I'm like really curious, because I don't see that there is no simple answer, and it's a very, very difficult overall situation.
Yeah, I would say that it's definitely a challenge, but it's also somewhat short-sighted from both sides if that's the only thing that you're going for. So there are obviously acquisition costs for that player on both sides, for the operator and for the affiliate to get that person to convert them. Now, if as an affiliate your maximum or your main goal is to maximize your let's say your flat fee costs, or to maximize your affiliate profit, it's not always better to look at a higher acquisition cost and get money up front, right? You want to make sure that it's profitable long term. So it might be that taking a lower CPA could be more beneficial if your partner is actually working well with their CRM or their VIP management team, and making sure that that player has the longevity to commit over a longer period of time. So would you rather take 1,000 now or 10,000 over the next 2 months? So that's kind of part of the discussion that we need to start having, which is, what does profitability mean for you? Logically, it would be a better long-term relationship where the income is continually coming in. But again, you don't always know as an affiliate. You're charging CRM deductions from the admin or from the affiliate fee and the admin fees, right, to run CRMs and bonuses. But are they actually using that efficiently? Are they, they're taking the deductions from the affiliate, but are they using their CRM efficiently, or their VIP team, to ensure that the player is happy with the service and they keep playing, which is then profitable longer term for both parties?
Yeah, it's going both ways right now. Like, I'm helping an affiliate manager with this new brand, allstars.io, and basically they have a major problem. They're sending me a list of affiliates going, this is what they're charging, should I work with them? And I'm going on Ahrefs and I'm like looking up their traffic, and I'm like, their traffic is just tanked. So a lot of traffic has gone down. So basically, I'm saying these deals don't make sense. And I ran white labels like over 15 years ago, and it's like I never had to do a flat fees to get started. It was like, here's the link to the program. They signed up. They put you in an order. Sometimes that's when the whole thing was getting started, where it's like, oh, we're gonna charge for a top list position. Now everyone's maximized that. I'm like, how does an affiliate program get started? Because you're being bombarded by like, we're not giving you any traffic until we get a flat fee to start. And then once you even get past that, they're like, I want the high rev share. And I don't support shaving, but I'm trying to think, why would operators not do this? They're like, you're making me overpay and I'm going to actually lose money on this. And I feel like they're like, okay, how do we compensate? So we have affiliates attacking operators on one side and operators attacking affiliates, and both are pointing the finger at each other. And the conversations against the other group are like, yeah, they're greedy, and affiliates are like, operators are greedy. So I mean, we have greed, lack of trust. The data will be there, but we need some transformation.
I mean, I'm seeing this rise from the operator side for affiliates that are now promoting hybrid traffic and whatever it's called, mixed media. There we go. That's the term, mixed media. And I'm like, well, that sounds fancy and cool, until you realize that it's like Facebook ads that are going into, SEO pages and PPC and whatever it is, and actually driving like very low quality traffic into higher rev share deals or PPC page or whatever it's going to be. And it's deceptive on both fronts. Like, it's not to say like only the operator here is at fault. I think both sides have a lot more collaboration efforts to put to work. But I think that lies back on what you mentioned, John, earlier regarding that it's going to be proven in the data. It's going to be shown through the data. And it's just about, the question is, do you have access to it? Can you see when you're being wronged? Can you see and track the source of your traffic? Can you actually see when someone is promoting you mixed media for a higher rev share, and it's actually just, Facebook advertising going into a much higher paid, channel? This is where I think the industry is getting it really wrong. Everyone's trying to cut corners. Everyone's trying to get as much out as quickly as possible because there isn't a finite duration to our relationship. Lifetime doesn't mean lifetime. 70% is not 70%. And so we're seeing this across the board. I think, for the most part, that evaluation of the relationship is being tested from the moment you sign a commercial on all fronts. But I think it also comes down to that kind of cohesion from the affiliate manager, from the business's intent, from the affiliate side as well, that there is transparency and synchronicity. And I mean, John, we've spoken about this before, about how if affiliates were just treated as partners and not just another service, it's something that would be, much better received as a longer term play rather than a quick money grab. And I think that's where we are at as an industry right now. When it comes to these scenarios, and it kind of takes me to my next question, yes, you have your commercial, but like affiliates wake up to the realization that operators potentially act in bad faith, and they stop sending traffic, or they start sending lower quality traffic to slowly kind of taper off their relationship. I mean, where do you guys see the action of kind of cutting traffic? I mean, we've seen it with cases with operators giving warning notices. If you don't start sending X amount, then we're going to cut you. When does that become intentional? Like, you want to put the blame on someone else, so you kind of wait for that, eviction notice.
Oh, that's a tough one. We're going into that same conversation about like, what are the things affiliates can do to not just maximize money out of operators, but also to steal from them as well. It's going both ways. But just to give you a couple examples, I mean, there's been a lot of talk, and operators, when they do a deal with an affiliate and like, okay, I'm paying for the #1 position in Canada, New Zealand, and Ireland. The next week, you go back. If you're doing the right testing, you're going to realize that maybe Canada's still alive, but the other 2 countries, you're actually not on the list. So they're actually double dipping. Like this is another problem that goes on the other side. I think we need to find ways of cleaning that up. But my personal take is like what people need are just more data tools. Like no one has the time to go through these reports, both on the affiliate side. Like another example is a couple weeks ago, we saw an affiliate where their 20% commission was actually marked as 0%. The affiliate manager was like, oh, sorry, that was the software's fault, which I don't think it was. But we just have this on both sides of the fence right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it as well where an affiliate gets, you know, several warnings that, hey, you're not delivering FTDs. We're going to adjust the commercial deal that we have with you. And it's not the case. You know, there was traffic delivered, but then there were new terms added. And it's almost a systemic problem that if you are not clear in what that partnership should be, and if you wanted to oversimplify and let's say treat affiliates almost like an outsourced marketing department, if it was an in-house marketing department, you would be having these conversations, right? So who is responsible for that conversation? Obviously the operators are the ones that own the data, the affiliates own the traffic, right? So it does have to come from both sides to make sure that whichever side there is an issue, whether it's the quality of the traffic changing or maybe the retention of the player from the operator side is, you know, less than what was expected, you need to have those conversations. And the only way that you can start those conversations is by having access to the data.
So here, like, let's imagine the situation that both sides have the access to the data. Yeah, like how do you think it would evolve afterwards? So there is kind of transparency in calculations, there is reporting, you can see the retention rates, you can see the actual value. How do you think it would change the things, and will it just evolve to another level of conflict, so to say, or it will resolve it?
It's not going to be a silver bullet that solves every issue. But if we take an ideal hypothetical scenario, so let's imagine in an ideal world, the affiliate has click level tracking, so they're assigning a unique click ID for every click that happens on their site. That click ID is obviously captured by the affiliate program. When a conversion happens, they get notified, hey, this click ID converted, and this is the player ID that they converted to. This is how you can start sharing information between entities while still remaining compliant with data privacy laws, right? So we're never sharing a personal identifying piece of information, but I know that Kelly comes onto my site and he's given click ID 123 and he converts to operator's ID 456. Now, when we start mapping that in the systems, we're able to see what that behavior is like. Are they playing over time? What are the deposits like? Are they kind of a one deposit and then never play again? And does that match with the reports that we are getting from the operators? So when you look at things like churn or reactivation, you know, there are costs involved to everybody if you want to keep that player engaged. Now, having access to that and being able to own that as an affiliate makes it a lot easier to obviously challenge the reports from the operators, whether or not they're a reflection of the real scenario. And, you know, by having that understanding and having access to that data, you're able to then see, okay, this affiliate asset that I'm running, this is my acquisition cost, and this is the actual lifetime value on average for my players. So are my costs being overspent here, or could I maybe increase the cost to increase my quality? And is that going to have an impact on the operator side? Because there are always changes that you can make, right? So if I'm running, let's say, an A/B test as an affiliate on my product, and at the same time the operator is running an A/B test on their sign-up registration flow, how do I know which of those is causing maybe a drop or an increase in conversion? Because now we're essentially having two different segments split two different times, and then it just becomes exponentially more variables that the other party's not aware of. So you can't really make assumptions without having the conversation and having that, you know, that accessibility to the data and the conversation to actually make an assumption that is true.
So it sounds to me, just as a follow-up thought, yeah. So it sounds to me kind of operator could actually make affiliates their partners in retention, because, like, again, if those same people are coming back and seeing the ad, it might stimulate them to, you know, to come back at least, because it's going to be still in their heads. They will see the brand, and overall, it's kind of increases retention and gives the affiliates to give that intention to, to still run the ad, to still run, maybe even to somehow connect it around different platforms, around different sources of traffic that you're providing, so that you're maximizing the possible retention on that product, so that you maximize your own profitability as well. But on the other side, I'm thinking that as an operator, probably what could be also, it's like, if I'm an operator providing the access to data, then I would like to also understand what affiliates are doing and how can I track that I'm not being manipulated with numbers.
Yeah.
Or, all of that. Like, is it possible, do you think, also to kind of do this reverse data access so that, both sides are feeling vulnerable in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely deeper levels of support that you can go to. So I mentioned before, obviously, a unique click ID from the affiliate, and that can be linked to a player ID from the operator. Where that becomes more important is having it set up. It means that I can tell as an affiliate if, Gally signed up and he's still operator 456, his ID there. Maybe he comes back to my site. I'm not going to show him a welcome offer for that operator again. Maybe I can have access to, loyalty bonuses, reload bonuses, or something that is, a bit more valuable, because obviously it's not as easy as it once was to just get traffic and hope that it converts. And it's almost like affiliates are becoming, their own VIP managers. If they're owning the players that they're generating and they have some kind of, platform where there's user generated content, and I can link that to an ID, and I can link that to a person, I don't need to know what the personal information is of that player, but I just need to know their ID and their activity. So it definitely can be easier to do retention. And, if I'm owning that as an affiliate and I can say, hey, Gally, I see you've signed up and you've deposited and you played for 2 months and now you haven't. The reality is, there's a few things that will happen. Either he will tell me that there was a problem and that he has stopped, in which case I can offer him alternatives and remonetize as an affiliate, or he'll tell me that he hasn't stopped and there's no problem, in which case, why am I no longer seeing that activity in my operator reports? So, it's something that gets easier with access to reports, but it does still need to be interpreted correctly, and that starts from trust.
I suppose it changes the environment that we're seeing now, which is more pixels, retargeting, and all of that. Once you put data ownership in the hands of affiliates, you almost turn the operator that under-delivers, and if some cases doesn't maximize or monetize the traffic that now you've spent money on bringing those players, those leads to them, then ultimately you're forcing an affiliate to take back control. You don't need technically pixels, which in many regulatory environments you can't use anyway, or shouldn't use anyway. But for the most part, you basically turn the operator that under-delivers into the affiliate retargeting ground, which is quite interesting. But I'm going to pivot the conversation. I'm going to fight you guys. I'm going to take you out of your comfort zone, which is the affiliate space. I'm going to throw you into the operator space. If you guys woke up tomorrow as an operator and you have your acquisition budget, where would you guys start when it comes to looking for, quote, high quality affiliate traffic, and why would you do it like that?
I'll go first. Without a doubt, where I would actually want to spend any money would be first on the team side. And I'd be like, if we don't have our CRM and VIPs sorted, like, I know I'm feeding this right back to you, Gally, but it's super true. You're wasting time. I get affiliate managers asking me going, should I pay these flat fees? And I'm kind of like, do you even know your player value? And it's like, well, sometimes you need traffic to get there. And it's like, why spend all this money on paid media and flat fees on affiliates when there's probably no ROI? And this is how a lot of white labels go out of business. I was on a panel at Next.io last week, and we had this guy who's working at Google, and he's like, look, you want to get into paid media? It's expensive. So what he's basically telling you is like, he's not saying it directly, but indirectly. If your player values aren't at a certain level, you're never going to make profit. Like, there's only few people or few companies that can actually afford to do it. It's not because you have the biggest budget. It's literally your own ROI. So if you don't have your ROI sorted, then what's the point of even turning on the affiliate channels when it's going to be negative? I mean, you must have heard these conversations where it's like, Gally, like, I've turned on the affiliate channels and they're eating me alive. Like, I thought this is where I make my money. And it's like, build the best product, focus on player value, focus on players. There's some operators that could probably even launch without even caring about the affiliate program, and let affiliates hear about your brand on social media and beg to big guys, when can I get one of these tracking links? Like, rather than them saying, hey, you got to pay us to join, you want them kind of doing the opposite, going, hey, you guys are like flying. It's like, when are you going to open the affiliate program? Like, just spin it around.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the maturity of the operator, right? So if we're looking at a brand new operator, are you jumping the gun by having this acquisition budget that you want to spend? What's the state of your internal data? Because if you need access to data to build better relationships, you can't do that unless you understand it yourself. So like John said, understanding your lifetime values, what's the justification on the deals that you're offering? Why are you offering a certain CPA? Is that based on what everybody else is offering? Is it based on slightly higher so that we can get more affiliates? Or is that based on something that is genuinely calculated as, this is the risk and this is the return and this is the average that we can do? Because as an affiliate, you can give them €700 CPA, but if that player is going to deposit once and then never come again, there's no point having a high CPA and having a revenue share or a hybrid deal, right? So you're just going to burn through that in CPA only deals, or do you want to have that based on something that is factual? So yeah, not opening up the acquisition channel too early, I would say, is probably the first thing. But then once that was understood, there are a bunch of ways to find affiliates that are doing well in the space, and looking at the competitor space, and there's ways of looking at what brands have got which affiliates. If you look at tools like Ahrefs and backlinks, and you can find signatures where you've got different tracking signatures on different sites and what the positions are, because you'll also run into affiliates that will say, not only do we want the highest CPA and the highest rev share, they're also going to say, you might have to pay us for an integration fee. We want you to pay for us to write the content, and we want you to pay for a fixed listing fee to be on position 1 for 3 months. And there's a big commitment to that. And you don't know what the return is on that until you've done your homework.
True.
The only thing that I'll add into this, and I'm not in the hot seat, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but the only thing that I am going to say is, if you have no retention strategy, your operation becomes basically a leaky bucket, and turning to acquisition as the stopgap to make up for churn and attrition and a value deficit, you will never fill the bucket. It's always going to be a leaky bucket.
Yeah. It's like a Ponzi scheme. You basically are like, I need more FTDs to pay for what's eventually going to come. I mean, look at Global Gaming, that company that just went out of business a couple of years ago. What was it, 300 people for an operation? They were just like, we need more FTDs. And I'm like, no one ever thought, I'm like, we need the best retention.
Yeah. 100%.
And then while you're trying to stop the leak in the bucket, you're then engaging reactivation agents and just bleeding even more cash. So it's a vicious cycle for sure.
100%.
And maybe just to kind of, so yes, this is definitely something that operators do need to take care of first. But like, once they took care of that, I have another question. There are typically, different sizes of affiliates. There are like solo affiliates, there are groups of affiliates, there are some companies. And so there are like really a lot of different ways. And typically, of course, kind of the largest affiliates are having the biggest name, where everybody goes to probably first. However, I was wondering, like, if I'm an operator, and again, it might be that just the start of a story, but I do want to scale further. Like, where would I go? Where is better to go? To the largest affiliates or to maybe some smaller ones? And overall, if we look at the performance, who are kind of more interested to look at, like smaller, mid-sized, big? How to think about it?
I would say it depends on your positioning first and foremost, right? So you can go to the biggest affiliate, but they only work in regulated markets, and you're working in unregulated, grey or black market, whatever.
Pre-regulated.
Pre-regulated. Yeah, and so it depends. It depends, right? So again, it goes back to having the relationships and understanding the partnership, because you can go to big affiliates, but if they're not servicing the markets that you're operating in, it's not going to work. So obviously, yeah, I mean, doing that research and understanding the positioning, there are a lot of tools online that you can find, you know, what your competitors are doing, who they're working with based on the, you know, backlinks and tracking and things like that. So it's more spend the time to do the research and do your own assessment with your own review in you know, as your forefront of that is I'm building this based on facts, and this is an educated decision and not just a hope for the best and see what's going to happen.
Yeah. My quick answer to that, Victoria, would be if I was an affiliate manager today and I know that you want to be on the homepage, you're overpaying. You're paying top list. I'd be like, hey, start with the relationship. Exactly what you said earlier. Be like, you know, hey, we're a casino. You know, we want to know if you could join our program. Focus on affiliates that actually have a newsletter database, because you can probably get high quality players almost instantly, and you might not even have to pay like a fee to get listed. And be like, look, I want to work with you. I don't know how our player values are going to be for you, but act like you're kind of doing this as a partnership. Because if you ask for things that don't cost a lot, sometimes that's where the real value is. Like, I would personally rather have a dedicated blog post about my brand than being on the homepage, because that's just going to have like recurring stuff. I'd rather even do an interview. So I think communities and, you know, newsletters is where you can get a lot of value, and there's a good chance that you won't have to pay. When we ran our affiliate site, which we sold 4 years ago, this was the most frustrating. We had 2,000 casinos. We had everyone listed. They all wanted the #1 space, and we're like, here's the price list. I'm like, you're asking for it. Anytime I try to tell them, it's like our best players come from 2 pages that are you don't know about, and our newsletter. Newsletter was #1. If you built a relationship with me and I liked you, I wouldn't even tell you I'm putting you in the newsletter. I would just do it automatically and show you, big, hey, we sent you on the newsletter and we got 5 depositing players. Our #1 channel was newsletter. And I don't understand, like, no, every affiliate manager is like #1 position. And then they're coming at me as if, like, you know, they're doing me a favor by putting them up there for free when everyone else is like, you know, I'm supposed to be charging for it.
I'm seeing a similar trend with now educational content, which has been happening for a while now, about how-to videos and informational videos. And I see Robert Quinnan popping up in the comments there, who has the most unbelievable YouTube channel, and I'm happy to give him a shout out for that, because it demonstrates the games and it makes it fun and interactive, and you build community as an affiliate in doing that. You know, those are the type of innovations that players gravitate towards. That's what we as an audience are looking for, and that goes well beyond brand. You know, that goes beyond just a single operator, because if I trust my affiliate more than I trust the operator, that's what's going to allow me to keep coming back to the source. So if you have good content, you have good educational content, you have a newsletter that I have subscribed to, you own my loyalty far beyond the operator that I'm spending money at.
That's a good point. I mean, there are so many ways right now to be creative, you know, and attract attention. So yeah, so it's interesting probably whether, you know, the operators actually talk about, like, how do you attract attention? What are your sources? I think that, yeah, that's a question that we missed today, but seems like that's an important question for going forward. But again, like, just be a bit mindful of time. We're always loving this conversation, and we're sometimes running a bit further. So just to be mindful, we actually wanted to move a bit to the future perspective and to start talking. I mean, there were already parts like that we tapped into around like what could be different at least. But like if we look at the perspective of 2-3 years, especially given the context that, I mean, the whole world is changing. I mean, the technology stack is changing. Like, it is changing the way they're working. Like, how do you think these affiliate operator relationships will evolve, and what will be the key components of it?
Yeah, my quick answer is I think we already have this now. Operators want more reactivation from affiliates. It's like, yeah, you can drive the FTD, but how can you help us with retention? And once we get into that flywheel, this benefits both parties. And I think we're going to see more things come from it. I think you get that with communities. You definitely get it with social media. And we talked about, Gali, you mentioned PAM earlier. So a PAM is a player account management. They typically exist for operators. And the second affiliates have these in their hands with advanced tracking and first-party data, the affiliate's also going to own the player. So I think that's a good thing for affiliates. Operators might be a little uncomfortable with that for now, but that's going to give them more value. And that's going to be like, all right, how do we work together in a partnership? Like, we're not emailing the same offer at the same time, but we're like, hey, the player is not responding to the operator. The operator can then go to the affiliate going, can you work with us to reactivate this player? Because, you know, we sent each other and we know you're tracking it. I think PAM is going to be one of many tools that's going to help, you know, make things better for both sides. And I think, you know, just once affiliates and operators get a better hold of their data, this is going to come sooner than later, I think, through done for you services. Like, not like you have to build this yourself, which is the way the current industry is today. I think it's less than 10% of operators have a BI platform. Once they get the BI platforms and it doesn't cost them, you know, a team of BI people and expensive software, that's when we're going to see some real change.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's going to change that balance in the industry. And I mean, you took my last question that I was going to ask you, which was around the whole PAM component. But, you know, do you think through the enablement of PAM, I will rephrase my question that I wanted to throw your way. PAM now is a reality. It exists. Affiliates have them. Operators have their internal player PAMs. Do you think we're going to see a situation where, much like how we're tracking favorite game, favorite provider, you'll have affiliates going favorite operator, favorite whatever, and from there, much like how we campaign as operators to players about, you know, a free spin offer or a deposit match, you're going to see similar CRM tactics, strategies forming in affiliates, changing the way that we would operate as an affiliate, where you need to be more strategic, you need to be more calculated. And if you're not leveraging data, it's almost a sure thing that you're going to fall behind those that are leveraging this PAM, leveraging data to be more long-term focused, as opposed to that, you know, quick win money grab that we discussed at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely handing that one over to Joe, because he's designed an amazing looking PAM system
already.
It's like we've been talking about PAM for a year, and what Joe's put together recently, I'm just like, it's beautiful. You know, we need to spend a bit more time on it and put it to the market.
Yeah, I modeled. I'm not sure if I've shared it, Gali, but I definitely can after the call. A PAM model for affiliates. But what is it going to look like in the next few years? I think the more this becomes accessible and mainstream, and the more people know that this is possible, yeah, it's going to elevate the conversations that we're having. And when I say elevate, I'm not talking more data for the sake of data. I'm talking data with context, right? So at the moment, it's probably 99% of the offers that get sent to affiliates, they're all sign-up offers. You know, if we're building that bridge between operators and affiliates and player account management within the, you know, what is able to be shared, you know, we can get an affiliate to send a click ID, we can get an operator to send a player ID, we can map that. If they start providing, you know, which bonuses were claimed or what their game styles are or what their preferred games are and types of slots or sports betting, and we can do that profiling on both sides as an affiliate from customer acquisition and from an operator as retention, I think that conversation will slowly change. It won't just be, here's a sign-up offer and we're going to do, you know, a really high sign-up offer. It can actually become more personalized in the sense of, hey, like, let's start offering these specific games or specific types of bonuses that are loyalty, reload, you know, top-up bonuses that are more specific in context. So it's definitely, it's probably quite wishful to think the next 2 years, but it's definitely something that we're moving towards.
You know, something that popped up in my head right now is that actually, I mean, affiliates are typically, I mean, they can work for different industries and they can also understand their audience and understand like, okay, which audience fit which industry, for instance, and pretty much just kind of be also very strategic around like how to make the most out of what you've got as a resource and as an attention that you're grabbing into. So I get that also kind of something else that could potentially be how to manage it even more interesting.
Yeah, and an operator might say, well, why would I want to share more information? Because affiliate can work with multiple brands or multiple affiliate programs, right? But that's part of building the relationship. You know, if you're sharing that information, you're building that relationship between an affiliate and an operator. It can go both ways, because an affiliate can also share information about the player account management that they are owning in terms of behaviors. Now, that could be anonymized across different brands. It's like, well, they prefer your platform, but your platform doesn't have X, Y, and Z features that your competitor does. So it is going to take time, I think, to build the relationships and to build the accessible data layer or the bridge between those data points. But it's definitely something that's mutually beneficial. And if I'm quite optimistic, it's possible. If I'm realistic, I think there's still going to be a lot of cat and mouse and excuses made around why this is not the best idea. But I think those that are embracing it early are seeing better results already.
Yeah, just add 2 cents to that would be operators, they are doing this right now and it's going to happen more and more. They're asking for affiliates for their data. Like, can you show me player value? How am I against my competitors? That's going to open up a lot of doors, I think.
I think that's going to be the interesting dynamic shift over the next 2 years. I think, especially now with the enablement of like AI, that if you can think it, you can build it. I think it's really going to change something in the industry, probably for the better. I think this topic has probably hit the nail on the head, because for the first time since we've started this webinar, we haven't received questions from the audience. I think people are just processing everything that's been shared. So I'll take that as a win. But I think that brings us towards the end of the conversation. And seeing as we have a few moments left, I just wanted to ask before we wrap up if there's any kind of last words or takeaways that you want to leave those watching today, final statements.
Too quiet. I'll go first. It's we need quality, not just for how we aggressively want to get players as an operator. I mean, the conversations we receive just from having affiliate accounts are getting worse month by month. It's really disheartening, but I think it's going to change once data comes available. Once operators can see like, hey, you're launching your white label. If you can make this survive, great. But I think if they realize what are the tools needed, they're going to realize that like the quality is important. And once affiliates actually understand this very deeply, that message is going to go right back. They're going to be like, look, I don't want to work with you because if this is how you treat me as an affiliate, I can imagine the player treatment's the same. You've already disqualified yourself.
Yeah, and from my side, I think, being curious about, what the current state is, what the next state could be, asking questions, challenging the status quo. We're seeing huge shifts in not only the accessibility to data, but also, the understanding of that data. So, keep challenging, keep pushing, try and get as much information as you can. And, it's going to benefit everybody in the long run.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So we're just on time, which is amazing. Amazing thing for us, actually. So Joy, John, thank you very much for sharing all the insights, for joining us today and unpacking this whole pretty difficult topic. That was very interesting for me personally, and it seems like for our audience as well, because we just had like very interesting comments regarding like how well and interesting it is going on. So overall, thanks very much for that. We are planning to have the next profile next month, so please come join us again. We still don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll figure out very soon. But so far, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Until then, we'll see you guys at the next one.
Thank you for having us. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Ciao, guys.